All right, so we got part two of the Midgard campaign setting. And sorry I didn't have split it up into two. It'll be a little bit palatable for you guys anyways to watch in the two-parter. But I think the races are a big reason I like the campaign. I think because there's some very unique races that they add in that make sense, that are some interesting parts of the campaign itself. I love the setting itself with the different countries and types of uh, realms. And again, they're familiar realms for us because they're based off of Earth-like realms. So there's a familiarity to it. And so one of the other things they go over, which I really enjoy, is the fact of the ley lines and the different lands that are with those and how the ley lines affect things. They have their own pantheon, which I really like that. They go into some ones that are familiar type of gods. Some of them we know, like Thor, Freyr and Freya, Loki, Sif, and Wotan. But then they also go with some ones that are different, like Kors, Leda, Mavros, Perun, Pava, Volurnd, and Yarla, and Azran, Baal, we know, uh, Kespoten and Sagoten, and then the southern gods. And some of the ones we know, like Bastet and Horus and Aten and Thoth Hermes. But then there's other ones that are a lot different. So they have a little bit of each. They go through each one and they give them a lot of credit to the world and what they did to help form the world, which I really like that. And then they go from there and really just focus a lot in the appendixes on the backgrounds and the different backgrounds for the type of characters that you can be, which I like that as well. So it really adds a lot of fleshing out to the world. Now, the maps are really well done. And if you take a look at it, the maps, and I'll show you one out of the Southlands, I really love the maps and what they do to flesh out the world and break it up a little bit. Let's see. So here's Nuria Natal. So they focus in on Nuria Natal in the Southlands. So it's a really neat map that they go through. They give you maps in the cities like Parabastet, the city of Bast, and its people. And they do some great artwork in the coverings of it as well to help you to flesh out what type of things are here and what type of creatures. They have some new different type of monsters, so they have different mixes on mummies, which I really like that. And then they also have different prestige classes like the Ray of Aten. So they really do take some things, and they talk about different weapons like the Takoba. So it really gives you the idea that they're not just fleshing off of somebody else's background and realm. They're really fleshing it out themselves. They talk about trade routes, how they affect things. And again, you can take a lot of different tilts on how you run your campaign and what type of adventures. They have some great adventures. They've really expanded. In fact, they're doing a Kickstarter on the demon cults for that world. And so I really like that they go into a lot of like the cult activity. They've got the sea realms as well. There's a lot of material, but yet it's not so much that you feel overwhelmed by it. And you can really pick and choose which portions. So for instance, if you just want to play in Zobek, you can be in Zobek forever. If you want to be just in the Southlands, you can focus there. You don't have to move around. Now, again, Paizo does the same thing with Golarion, as does Faerun, as does Greyhawk. But I just really love, there's just a feeling of difference here to some of the other realms that I've seen. Now, there's a lot of good material, don't get me wrong. Kobold just really does a quality job. The Southlands is a $49 book, and in my mind, well worth what you pay for it because it's a standalone campaign on its own. You never really have to touch the other realms of Midgard if you don't choose to. It is totally standalone. Whereas with Golarion, the southern continent and the northern continent are part of each other, so there's almost an intertwining. No, you don't have to touch each other, but they're very intertwined. And the depth of material that Kobold Press does on each standalone realm is pretty strong. You're talking a couple hundred pages of material. So they really do put a lot of thought and effort into helping you to understand the realm itself, but without railroading you into you just have to use this and that's it. You can't put your flair onto it. I like that you can put your flair onto it. And it's both usable in 5e and in Pathfinder. So they took into account both. And 4e also. They had the 4e for those of you that are fans of D&D 4e, they also did it there as well. So I like that they really took the two most popular systems of fantasy and really developed it for those. And that's why I say this GM Tips is really based around those. Yes, you could adapt it to other systems. It's always doable, but they really adapt it to those two systems. Now, they come out with a lot of new spells and a lot of new rituals and other things you can do. They have tie-ins to how the gods and goddesses are tied into certain realms and really are protectors of certain realms. So I love that. So as you look at it, there's not always a mixture of all the religions and all the different lands. There is some crossover, but it's really segregated like the ones on Earth are to the different vicinities of the world. And so it makes a lot of sense when you're working with it. I love the monster guides. So they did monster guides on this as well with some of their own bestiaries or bestiaries. And so the bestiaries, like for instance, they got the burrowing, something really new and unique. They've got the Child of Briar for the Fey realms. Let's see. Clockwork Hounds. So for your clockworks and your clockwork beetles, you can have stats on those and beetle swarms. There is your Dracul, which are your realms of the Dracul. This is a Dracul ogre. They also have the Dracul fever. And that's a kind of a ghoul with it. Now, they have a couple different types of new devils in there. They got the dire weasels. I like the dog mole juggernaut. So you're a giant mole person. Your cave dragons and your mithril dragon. See, nobody's done a mithril dragon that much. I don't remember any of them in. I guess there was a platinum dragon, but not a mithril dragon in the D&Ds. They have dream eaters and drowned maidens and fell forged, iron ghouls. I love that they go through the different types of ghouls. So you've got an iron ghoul and an imperial ghoul, and also your bone powder ghouls. So you have a lot of different ghoul races that are in there that are involved. So it's just not one generic ghoul. They got different goblin types and golems. So they got an eye golem and a salt golem. Again, some really unique things that are very different from other books. You're not just taking what's in the 3.5 monster manual and bringing it over to another realm. So like with 5e and 4e, where it stays consistent with the monster manuals being similar, these add some new flares that are not there. And I recommend these as well as the ones from Sword and Sorcery, the different Tome of Evils, or the, what are they, the Tome of Horrors. I love the Tome of Horrors. And again, a little different publisher than Kobold, but it's very useful in adding new monsters that are not common to a certain area. So I do like this realm. I do like what they've done with it. It is very incorporated into any of the three, the 4E, 5E, or into Pathfinder. They've got versions of each. The PDF versions are very affordable with almost every one. They're $9.99, so they follow a lot and along with the Pathfinder. In some cases, the campaign ones are $19, just like the Pathfinder ones are. So they're very affordable if you don't want to buy the print ones. I recommend the print ones. I love the material. I love the quality of the material, and the books have that longevity feel that they're going to weather a lot of abuse. And so that's important to me when it comes to buying that type of stuff. I want my books, if I'm going to spend the money, to last a good amount of time. Keep that in mind. And so it's just a great home built campaign with a lot of love given to it. And there's a lot of uniqueness to it in the different empires. And I love that they cover the different types of climates, peoples, how they evolved, how they grew into nations, what they worship, the rituals. It's very, very well done, and it explains a lot. And it allows you still to do your own touches on things, but it gives that familiarity of an already produced campaign material. So in these 30 minutes, I hope I really have brought it to life to you and given you a little bit of review. I know some people say, well, how do you recommend playing it? I'd say, start from scratch. Don't try to incorporate it as a Galarian universe. In fact, you could do it as a whole different world to Galarian and another star system. You could still use Galarian with it. It's just two different star systems, two different sets of deities. Or you could do it as an alternate reality. So if you want your players to do a shift over from one to another, the other universe is still there available to them, or Faerun, or Greyhawk, or Eberron. They're all there, but they're in different chapters. So you kind of flesh them out. I myself like the idea of it being a whole nother world. So that way, if you wanted to bring somebody over from Galarian to that world, you could and explain it, or vice versa, or you just leave them very standalone. It's up to you. I kind of like the idea that it is a offshoot world, another world where things grew up differently. And so it's like coming to another whole other planet where humans came up differently than they would have on the one planet. And so, hey, can you tell Mini GM's having fun with Willy Wonka? I love her. You guys get a real taste of humor hearing her run by. This is what I get blessed with every day when she runs by and makes me laugh, because she really does. And my kids did that too. John and Becca were the same way. They used to run by and make me giggle at the different things they did. It's the best part of being a geek dad. So that said, I would recommend getting Midgard first, or the Southlands first, and then the Bestiary, or the Bestiary. I also want to call it Beast. Bestiary. Then from there, you can get the city. The Free City of Zobek's a really nice one to get. I think it really leads to a very rich city and a rich area where it's well fleshed out and well thought of. It's almost like a Waterdeep or a Free City of Greyhawk. There's some really wonderful things that you can do there and really base it out of there, or Sand Point or Magnamar, or one of the other worlds in Pathfinder. It's really well thought out. A lot of rich history around it, a lot of events that have happened that characters can really build off of. And from there, just build the realm around it. There's a lot of maps, a lot of things you can do. Spend the time of really reading it and going through it and taking the time to take it all in. And then if you want to keep it as is, great. If you want to do your modifications, great. They do have modules. They have some great modules with the Dwarven realms and with the city itself, as well as other adventures that are just based out of there that I think are really neat. So keep that in mind. And plus the Kobold Press does the Kobold Monthly, and so you can, or quarterly, Kobold Quarterly, and you can take a look in there, and they always have some material for Midgard in there that is really useful, as well as to D&D and Pathfinder. And they do a lot of prestige classes and other things on the races that you can get that are just PDFs. That are little inserts that'll help you along the way. So again, I hope you enjoy it. I really hope you get a chance to look it out and look into it, because I enjoy it most thoroughly. And with that, I will let you go to enjoy the rest of your weekend, as I'm going to enjoy my weekend with my fiance and the little mini GM. Have a great one, and we'll see you guys again on GM Tips. You got any questions or suggestions, send it to me at ricmoh43@yahoo.com. Thanks all.